Zombie Grrlz Podcast. I'm your co-host Rachel, and joining me is a couple of my favorite lovely zombie ladies, Matilda.
Hi.
And Ariel.
Hi.
Sarah's out this week. Don't worry, she's not gone forever. She just had to take a little break. She had some stuff come up, and she will be back with us next time. In fact, the next episode she will be programming. So I guess what I'm saying is, you in danger.
I think we're in danger.
I know we're in danger.
Please,
How
no
have you guys
necromantic.
been? What have you been up to? It's been a long time.
Yeah, I guess it has.
Uh-huh.
I have not been up to that much, unfortunately.
Really? Usually you're out mixing with the people. By people,
Right.
I mean naked weirdos.
I do have a story to tell you. But...
See, this is Barry
Yeah.
the lead Messman Rucker is your name. You're always like, oh, nothing except
Well, I
for,
just
you know,
mean
the
I haven't been
17
out doing a
dongs
bunch of
that I
stuff.
saw.
Oh my God.
All right, Dish, what's going on? Tell us about your weirdo neighbors.
Okay, so you know how I'm always seeing people in various states of undress and in the middle of sexy times, but nobody else ever sees this?
Yes.
Which makes me feel a little bit crazy because nobody ever witnesses this happening.
You know what?
Yeah, you're like the kid in The Sixth Sense, but like for naked people.
Oh my God.
I see genitals. Okay.
So-
To this moment, I've never doubted you, but now I'm like, wait, is she conjuring this?
So at the end, you're going to be like, that person was naked the whole time.
Oh my God.
All right. Okay. Where's this going?
All right, so finally somebody else witnessed something kind of weird. So
Okay.
I was out with my mom
Awkward.
and right. I taken my mom to an appointment and we came outside and we're waiting for our ride, and there was this guy who was sitting on the curb reading a book, obviously also waiting for somebody. Didn't think anything of it until
no.
his ride got there, and he stood up and turned towards us, and he was wearing shorts,
Okay. That's already better than I thought that we were about to hear.
but they were unzipped.
Oh no! I
Oh.
went the roller coaster.
And there was no
No.
underwear to be seen.
No.
There was just penis.
No.
Yeah. He
Was he just sitting there
turned
waiting to
around and
expose
flashed
himself?
us. I don't know. Like my generous
He was waiting for
read
his
of
getaway
it.
car. Were things
Oh my God.
alert, or were they more chilled out?
Everything was pretty chill.
Okay, so
Okay.
there's a chance that this
That
was,
it was just
not
an accident.
intentional.
But here's the thing. It was 40 degrees outside. So
Mm.
how do you not notice? And we were right by the waterfront, so it's crazy windy down there. I don't understand
okay.
how you would not notice that your junk is being exposed to the elements. You know, what I
You would at
mean?
least feel a little wind in the hair, you would think.
You would.
Oh,
Oh my God, Matilda.
No.
You guys somehow always manage to make it worse for me. I'm not sure how you accomplish it every time.
So, okay, so when this happens, what do you and mom do? Do you just like whistle and act like nothing's happening, like doo, 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 doo? Or did you
Basically,
exchange
and
a
then-
look, or what
I
happened?
think we were just sort of standing there in stunned silence, and then he got in the car and drove away, and my mom just looked at me and she was like, "Did you see that?" And I was
What-
like, "Yeah." Yeah, I did. It was
You missed a
unavoidable.
perfectly good gaslighting opportunity.
And do you feel like he knew?
Oh God, I don't know. I can't figure out how you could not know, but maybe he's weird or something.
But
I
it
also
didn't
don't
seem
know-
like an intentional showing.
Well, I mean, he did turn towards us, and there was no reason to because the car was on the other side.
So he'd been sitting there with his book, hiding
Yeah,
his
back to us.
surprise.
Yeah.
And just waiting for the getaway driver to get there. Like this, I'm convicted. I'm convicted.
That does seem sususpicious.
Yeah.
And
I
open
need,
to
I need
the
a sound
street.
effect right now that's like case closed. We have a Song Slinger. I don't know, what do you call it? A flasher? A flasher. I didn't need to make
Flasher.
up a word. There's already a word that exists.
Did you say
Let's move forward.
schlong slinger?
No. I definitely didn't.
Oh my god. So anyways, it was a weird end to a day that was pretty boring until then. So I guess that's something. I also felt a little vindicated that finally somebody else saw something strange, you know?
Yeah.
You
But
are
I could
a
have done
master of
without
a
seeing
silver
it.
lining.
I just need everybody to keep it in their pants at all times, you know? Just stop it.
Yeah. Like, it's okay to just keep your pants on. I know this is a wild thing to say, and I realize that I am a never nude, so maybe but just pants on in public. I feel like that's a low bar, right? Am I crazy? I mean, you're the nudist amongst us, Matilda. Am I asking too much? Is my never nude ways?
No. There is a time and a place, right? And like consensual nudity is important.
Yes, thank you. I have not consented. Everybody needs to go away.
Oh, but then what will we talk about at the opening of our podcast?
I know.
Yeah, that's true, right?
I think
would
we
just
need to
all-
start feeding you, because you like a kind of like good one-liner. I think we need to start feeding you one-liners to say when you
Oh my
run
goodness.
across the level of nudity
Right?
that you
Yes.
see.
Yeah, what
You
can I
should
say
just
that's
start
funny but
shouting,
also
like-
shames them into putting clothing on?
I feel like you should adopt that. Have you ever seen that viral video of the woman like penis shaming some guy in her car?
No.
She's
No.
Angus, your penis is too small. And it's like 5 minutes of her just screaming just like that. Small.
I've only seen the one of the woman on the subway who a guy took it out, and she started shouting to the train about what was going on.
Oh, maybe just
Amazing.
start shouting. Like, see something, shout something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
I think the question is shaming a part of the kink? I don't know.
Oh, gross.
Or is it just because they know people are shocked into silence, they keep doing it?
I don't know. Not real happy with either one of those scenarios.
Yeah. But you gotta get everybody's consent.
Thank you. My
Fine.
dog and I did not consent to see this. She is my only other witness. Oh my god.
What is that?
And this video is quite long.
You can't see, but my face is like in a cringe that I'm not sure. When they tell you like if somebody hits you, you're going to stay that way. I think my face is going to stay that way.
I just think you need to channel Lady in the car.
All right. If it happens
That's
again,
very small.
maybe I'll give that a try.
Or like my mom, who would be a little shaming.
Yeah, what
Oh.
would Mom of Matilda say in a scenario like this? Let's channel.
I don't know that anybody's taken it out in front of her, but I do know that once she told me a story that she and my dad were at a cafe and he was facing a different direction from her and there was a couple behind her and he was like, turn around. Like the woman's got her hand like in the guy's pants.
Oh.
And he wanted her to look, and my mom was like, is it erect? Because if it's not erect, I don't care.
I love your mom.
So maybe if it's not erect, I don't care. It's the
Oh, right.
Ooh.
That's what to say.
Although that could be taken as an invitation.
yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
don't
could
want
also
that.
backfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think Operation SMOL is the key. Wow, Ariel. Wow. I feel guilty by how delighted I am by all these stories. Because I don't really
Maybe
want them
that's
to
my
happen
silver
to you.
lining.
Yeah.
I don't know why all these nudists have moved to such a chilly place.
Yeah, and it rains a lot too.
I know. Why is this not a San Diego problem or something? Like, why is it up
I feel
there?
like it should be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Maybe we should move
how
on before
have you
Rachel.
been, Matilda?
I've been fine. I've been a little bit more inside the last couple months because of Omicron, and it's
Yeah.
wearing on me a little bit, but I'm okay.
Yeah. Although we got to go do something the other day. That was fun.
We did. We ate falafel, which I haven't had in so
Ooh.
Yum.
Yum.
Oh,
Sounds
it's
delicious.
great. I mean, I'm telling you, it's about testing and hang. Got to test and hang.
Yeah.
Because like I told you, I'm getting weird. I don't know how to interact with other people anymore.
Yeah.
I need
feel
that contact.
deeply.
Oh, same. I'm going to be like, my dad, who is so extroverted that famously he was told, have I told you this? That he went to Costco and somebody in line told him, I don't come to Costco to make friends.
Oh no!
That's so sad. I'm heartbroken for your dad.
Me
That's so
too.
mean. As someone who hates it when people talk to me at the grocery store, to the point where I don't even go to the grocery store anymore, I would still never say that.
I know. I know. I think I'm going to end up like him, though, because I'm so, starved for human contact.
Oh.
Well, we're gonna go get dinner or dinner today, so we'll top off your tank a little bit today. I promise.
Yeah. Well, if you go to the restroom and come back, and the person at the table next to us is like, "I don't come here to make friends." That's what's going on.
Amazing. So I guess that let's maybe talk about what we've been watching. Ariel, what have you been watching?
Okay, so I watched this movie that came out on Shudder not too long ago called The Last Thing Mary Saw.
I keep meaning to watch this. Was it good?
It is good. It's an interesting movie because it's basically about this young woman who has fallen in love with the maid in her home. So it's a lesbian love story where they're being accused basically of witchcraft by their family and the community, and sort of how that plays out. So it's really interesting, and you don't usually see the lesbian story from that time period. So I thought that was really cool. And it's a very sweet story between them, even though all these sort of horrific things are being done to them all the time. I would say for you, Rachel, though, you're probably going to think the movie is about 25 minutes longer than it needs to be.
Okay.
And I hate myself for saying this, but I actually think you'd probably be right. And
welcome to the right side of history, Ariel.
Rory Culkin is also in it. He has a really interesting role.
Him.
Yeah, it almost took me a second to recognize him because he's so different in this movie, but he's interesting and very creepy. I don't entirely understand his entire sort of plot arc in the movie. I feel like maybe I missed something there, but I do think people will enjoy the ending of this one. It is, like I said, though, kind of slow, so you got to hang with it through that, you know. And then the other thing that I watched recently is this documentary that came out towards the end of last year called Buried. Have either of you guys seen this one?
Tell me more.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's about this court case that took place in the late 80s, early 90s, where this woman had supposedly remembered 20 years later that when she was a kid, she witnessed her father murder this little girl. And so it's all about the court case of basically an entire trial being done decades after the murder happened with zero physical evidence. And the only evidence they have basically is the memories through testimony of this woman who claims to have sort of, you know, all of a sudden had these memories.
Like forward. Recovered memories?
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, it's the Susan Sarandon case. And it's a very interesting documentary. It does do that thing where, like, the first episode, it presents sort of one side and you're like, yes, I totally believe this person. And then the second episode presents the other side and you're like, wait a minute, no, I don't.
Oh, shit.
But it's 4 episodes long, and it goes through, like I said, the whole court case and all of the sort of crazy media attention that it got, you know, where it was on every talk show and every news station, because it was this very long, very public trial. And then all of the things that happen subsequent to the trial, of things, you know, new evidence coming up, things getting overturned, her recovering more memories, and the whole sort of argument about whether recovered memories are a real legitimate thing and whether that can ever be used as evidence in a court case. Because this was, I guess, the first time they had ever been used to convict somebody. So anyways, it's really interesting. And Matilda, you might find it interesting. And if you watch it, I would love to hear your thoughts about it because I found the whole thing bizarre and fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that.
I'm totally gonna watch that.
It's on Showtime.
Okay.
So if you have that, you can watch it there.
I do now because of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, that's why I watched it too.
What have I begun? Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna definitely check that out because I love a good like sort of crime documentary.
Yeah, if you guys see it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it because it's just so strange because the idea that somebody recalls something in such great detail, but then you slowly find out like maybe they could have gotten the details in these other ways, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the premise of a movie or something. I know there's something similar in a Gillian Flynn novel, but it's a brother that, right? Isn't there something like that?
There is in Dark Places.
Dark Places, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
I will definitely check that out. How about you, Tilly? What have you been watching?
Well, I burned through Archive 81.
Yes, me too.
Oh, so good. And I had not listened to the podcast. Did you listen to the podcast?
I did not even know it was a podcast until somebody on Discord mentioned it. I think it was Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have not finished it, so don't spoil the ending in case, because they've deviated from the podcast quite a bit because I actually have listened to the podcast.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's some things, obviously there's a lot of crossover, but the way it's being presented is differently, and like the dynamic between the two lead characters is very different. So I don't actually know where it's going.
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
The podcast,
Cool.
like all the contact that they have is not really in the podcast. It's much more because it's a podcast. It's just like every week is to a certain point. It's just him decoding these, or like cleaning these things up, and her having interviews with different people that live in the
Gotcha.
building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very different.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really liking it.
Yeah, it's good. The cast is good.
Mm-hmm.
It looks great. And I don't know if it's going to come back for another season.
I hope so.
I hope so too. But that was a good binge.
First season of the, like, if it goes where the podcast goes, it's like it goes into like weird body horror stuff in the second season. I don't know if that's
well, that sounds terrific.
Like weird, like, yeah, I don't want to spoil it in case it goes there, but I was just kind of like, are we gonna see like Tetsuo stuff? Like, it's like it's very strange.
Yeah, it took some turns that I was not expecting, so it was really cool.
Yeah, me too. It's such a great mystery, and like you said, all the characters are really interesting. And I thought I might be annoyed with the way it flips back and forth between the two perspectives, but I actually think the way that they wove it together is really good. And I also love the choice that they made to not have it be shaky cam through her camera the whole time, but that as he's watching the film, we get back to sort of her story, and it's being filmed like a normal movie would be. I personally appreciated that a lot.
I did too, because it's kind of like some essentially like found footage in a filmed movie, but sometimes you're like, where are we getting this footage? And like, I don't care. I'd rather just not be nauseous.
Right, exactly. And I think some of it can be explained away by some of the things that happen later in the movie, but as it's all being uncovered, I was just glued to the screen. I wanted to know exactly what was going on here and how everything was connected, and I thought it was super satisfying the way that it ended. I also really love his friendship with that other guy, the podcaster guy.
With the guy played by Matt McGorry, who I love.
He's such a good friend.
Yeah, it was driving me like, it was tip of my tongue, like where I knew him from, and I had to look up. Yeah.
Yeah. Very different characters. Very different characters.
Very different character from his Orange is the New Black turn. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing I've been, is we watched Yellow Jackets. I know everybody probably within the reach of our voices watched this, but it was so fun. And I loved, for the finale, we did like a Patreon group watch.
That was so much fun.
And I just want to make another plug that if you are not in our Patreon, those group watches are so much fun.
You got to get on the Discord. Like in Patreon, if you're in Patreon, you should be on our Discord because it is so much fun. Like, and we do stuff like this sort of, it was not necessarily a planned thing, but like we all got so excited that we're like, let's do this as a group watch. So there's planned things and then there's spontaneous things.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're talking kind of maybe about doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre group watch. We'll see. But the point is, you should, if you are, like Matilda says, if you are already a patron or you're not a patron yet, you should definitely come in and get on the Discord, because we would love to have you, and the more the merrier, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's super fun. And because of that, I got Showtime, and I have been hearing, especially from one of my favorite true crime podcasters, that the Showtime documentaries are really like leveling up. So Ariel, what you're saying about Buried makes sense, and I'm excited to dive into more of those, because they're getting good feedback.
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's exciting, because I love a good true crime documentary. The next one that I have planned to watch on there is Love Fraud, because I think Rachel told me about that one once.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one either.
You guys need to watch that one.
Okay.
Because especially for the bounty hunter lady.
Oh, okay.
Who's just like, we're gonna get him. I was like, yeah.
All right, I'll move it up my list.
Yeah, and it's let me get into work in progress too, which I'm like saving a little by little, but so good.
Oh, I've never watched that.
Oh, you should watch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. Yeah, so that's what I've been watching.
Awesome. So you guys kind of took all the stuff I've been watching, so, which is good. I mean, it just means we're all kind of on the same page, and I'm glad they got covered. The only thing that you guys are not watching that I'm watching is Peacemaker, which is on HBO. It is a series on HBO that is a spinoff of the James Gunn Suicide Squad,
the good one
that came out, I guess, early last year,
Mm-hmm.
which was surprisingly pretty great. I mean, it's James Gunn, who has a very particular point of view, and kind of raunchy, very left-leaning in his politics, and very, very violent. So, hello, of course I love it. That's my taste in a nutshell. So this series follows Peacemaker, who was not my favorite character from the movies, and I was kind of bummed that he was but what he's doing with that character is really interesting, because it's like all about how he was like created through childhood trauma, and it's kind of like, I think producer Randy said that it's essentially like a live action Archer.
Oh, cool.
So if you enjoy that sort of dynamic, you'll enjoy this. But also, like, he goes on these sprees of like, there's a whole thing about Louis C.K. exposing himself.
Oh, okay.
And like the thing about, like, you hear it and you're like, oh no, and it's like coming out of John Cena's mouth and you're like, oh no. But then, like, you have to remember that James Gunn is a master of punching up.
Mm-hmm.
And so all he does is punch up. It's great. And there's a handful of moments like that. It's very, it's quite funny. It's very bloody. It's a total dose of serotonin. So I would recommend giving it a go. If you are kind of on the fence about it, it's one of my favorite things that I've seen in a long time.
Really? Okay, well, that's interesting, because I hated the original Suicide Squad movie.
Oh, it's terrible. It's horrendous.
Yeah. But I really liked this newer one. But when I saw Peacemaker come out, I had the same thought you did. Was like, I don't know that I really need to see that much of Peacemaker. You know, like, he was good in drips and drabs in the movie, but I don't know that I need to see a whole thing about him. But if you liked it, then maybe I'll give it a shot.
It's much more of an ensemble piece.
Okay, cool.
And it introduces a character named Vigilante that I'm fucking obsessed with.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I wish it was the Vigilante show. I will say the show has almost made me cry in a couple of points, because it's surprisingly poignant. Yeah, there's lots of stuff there. So check out Peacemaker.
Okay,
sweet. All right. So really quickly, before we get into this episode, I want to take a moment to thank our amazing patrons. We are so lucky that you guys listen to the show, that you like us well enough to be patrons of the show. And we're working really hard this year to step up our Patreon game to make sure that you get every penny's worth out of it, because we value every single one of those. And so I also want to just take a minute. I'm just going to run through our patrons and thank you all personally by name, because like I said, we are so, so, so grateful. All right, first up is Angela. Thank you so much for being a patron. Justin, you know who you are. Thank you for being a patron. Jeff, you have been a patron from almost the very beginning, and we are so grateful for you. Eddie, of course, we love you and are so grateful. Tracy, who is on the Discord and makes it better with her presence and her amazing fucking embroidery. Holy shit.
Oh, that's right. Yes. God damn it, you're talented. We love that.
Yes, our good buddy Jeff, who is always bringing the best beers on the Patreon, and lately the killer cat content.
Oh,
so grateful for you.
I'm really enjoying the whole cat dad storyline. It's pretty great.
And speaking of cats, Cat, of course, our beloved Cat, who is like on days where the Discord is a little quiet, she keeps it lively, she keeps it popping. Diane, who is like a mentor and has supported my career and continues to support my passion projects. Thank you so much. Johan, I don't know you, but I want to. You should be on the Discord and join us. Aster, love you, Aster. Playing trivia with you was so much fun.
I was just going to say that. That was so much fun. We really got to do that again at some point because it was a real joy to get to know you.
And Aster is an HZIC level patron. We need to get you on the show. You're supposed to be hosting.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Oh my gosh, you got to pick the show you want to come on.
I know, we keep talking back and forth, but we haven't nailed something down, so we need to make it happen. There's also someone named Jody who's at the HZIC. I feel like we should definitely get her on the show.
I'm interested to hear her voice. Yeah.
I know. It'll be very intriguing. All right, Sarita, who we have not gotten a horror update from her in a while.
We haven't. Yes, we need a new one, Sarita. Yeah,
she watched at least one of the movies. So
she did, and then she went quiet, and I'm a little worried about that. We got to get you back on the horror train. So write us or text me, one or the other.
Yes, Laura. Yes, thank you so much for supporting us. We need you on the Patreon as well. Where are you? Or not Patreon, Discord. We need you on the Discord so we get to know you. Tracy, oh my gosh. Tracy, I chat occasionally with on social media. She is amazing and funny and smart. And I sent you a friend request. So come on, hang out with us on the Discord. Jonathan, who I think has quietly been on the Discord, but never talks to us. So Jonathan, talk to us.
Yeah, come on.
Laura. Now, Laura is a new addition as well. She is also at the $10 HCIC level. So Laura, I'm going to email you today because you're supposed to be on the show and come host with us. So I'm going to drop you a message today.
Oh, that's exciting.
Same thing with Mike, who is another person that I love chatting with on social media. Always has the hottest takes. Super cool dude. And he is at the $10 level. So Mike, expect an email. We're going to get you on the show. Darla, who could Darla be?
That's my mom.
Thank you, Darla, for your support. It really does mean a lot. And thank you for making Ariel, because I like her.
Yes.
The second, we have a family situation here. Our beloved Joy. Thank you so much for your support. Total star on the Discord, bringing the A++ cat content. The only person on the show to have gotten not one but two personalized four personalized emojis.
They're our favorite.
Lizzie, thank you so much for supporting us. You should also be on the Discord. What the hell? Jane, thank you for your support. Michelle, I'm so glad that you are one of us. And Michelle, I believe, did just actually join the Discord.
Oh,
so
right.
Thank you so much, every one of you, for your support. If you haven't heard from me recently about being on the show, you expect an email today, or actually this will be out far after. You would have received an email from me today. So yeah, everyone out there who is not already signed up for the Discord or for the Patreon, think about it. Join us. We'll thank you by name. One of the many things we'll be doing this year to make being a patron, worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the just deep and all-encompassing satisfaction of knowing that you're supporting us. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts for the patrons?
No, I mean, we just appreciate it so much. This has been so exciting to be able to communicate with all of you guys and to know that you're listening and supporting us. It's been a real joy. We put a lot of work into all of the podcasts across the network, and it's just been really, really rewarding to have you guys be a part of it.
Yeah. And the Discord, if if people aren't in the Discord, please get in the Discord. And even if you think, well, I don't know if they want to hear from me, like, I don't know these folks so well, we do. I get so excited when there's a new patron that pops up and starts chatting, like, yay! You know, not that I don't love all my fellow podcasters, but like, it's so exciting. We also talk a lot, so it's, you know, it's so exciting when somebody new pops on there and has something to add. I'm so excited.
Yep.
All right, so that is it for what you've been watching. Time to review some movies. So like I said, these are movies that I picked, and the reason I selected them, it was kind of just a weird, it just sort of like came up as a weird combination in a conversation with Ariel, and I kind of fell in love with it because I wanted to pick something fun. We had just finished our end of year crunch, and I was just like, I need something brainless and fun.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear that.
And I thought these totally fit the bill, and they kind of fit together because they're very female centric and of a time. So yeah, and at the very least, I thought they would be really interesting to talk about in a modern context. So yeah, let's do that. But before we get into those, let's briefly let new listeners know and remind our longtime listeners what our spoiler policy is here on this podcast. Matilda, how do we do this? Are we spoilers? What do we do?
So we have a very specific spoiler policy, which is that we spoil everything.
And if we ever tell you otherwise, we're wrong. We're lying.
Yeah. To be fair, you've also had 30 and 35 years to watch these movies. So
I feel like the window, what is that? The statutes of spoiler limitations have lifted on
yes. I agree. Yeah. But if you haven't seen these, or it has been a long time since you've seen these, go watch these, get yourself a refresher, and come back.
All right, cool. So let's start with Death Becomes Her. Ariel, you have the background for this. Tell me a little bit about this movie.
Sure. So Death Becomes Her was written by Martin Donovan and David Coep and was directed by Robert Zemeckis. So at this point, when he directed Death Becomes Her, he had already had huge critical and commercial success with the Back to the Future movies and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
This is a wild follow-up.
Agreed. So with Death Becomes Her, he really wanted to push the boundaries of what was possible with digital effects. He wanted to have all these sort of gruesome things happen to the characters' bodies, but one of the main challenges was creating lifelike human skin and texture using computer graphics, which was basically unprecedented in the early 90s. Okay, the other thing I want to say real quick is that there's so much information out there about this movie and tons of facts. So I'm just going to give you the stuff that I found the most interesting. But if you think that I missed something, join our Patreon and come yell at me on the Discord. You know, plug.
Well played.
So in order to achieve this, they hired Industrial Lights and Magic, and apparently they basically invented an entire visual style of computer-generated imagery that changed the trajectory of Zemeckis' career and sort of the film industry as a whole. And a year later, Industrial Lights and Magic went on to use a lot of these same techniques in the making of Jurassic Park. So the other thing that was really important, so the other thing that was really important was figuring out just how realistic they should make the effects, because, you know, like, should they go for really gruesome or less so because of the tone of the movie? So for instance, with the gunshot wound, visual effects artist, director Doug Chiang played around with it. First, he made a version that was gruesome and super realistic, where you could see the internal organs and even part of the spine. But that did not work with the tone of the film, so he had to make it more in vein of like a Tex Avery cartoon to kind of emphasize the visual comedy, and at the same time still trying to make all the skin texture look real. The other piece of new technology that they used in the making of this movie was Photoshop. I guess at the time, visual arts departments were still doing all of their mock-ups with colored pencils, but Chang didn't think they were capturing all that real texture and the wounds and the bruising, so they started using Photoshop for it. And if you actually Google it, you can see his mock-ups of the twisted neck scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they really use a mixture of a lot of CGI and practical effects to get the look that they wanted. So for instance, in the scene where, and this is going to be kind of spoilery, Meryl Streep's character takes the potion and starts to transform, they had originally created a pressure lifting device built into her bra to push her boobs.
Whoa! Fredericks of Hollywood's like, what's that now? Is Fredericks Hollywood still a thing?
Oh,
Did I just totally
question.
date myself?
That's a good question.
But it didn't end up looking correct. So what they did instead was they had Meryl Streep's dresser stand behind her and use her hands to just push up her boobs in that scene.
Someone's like, oh no, I will take one for the team. The hardship. That's quite a scene, by the way.
Yeah,
It really is. So also animatronic puppets of Meryl Streep's head were created and used to shoot this scene where she's sort of a resurrected Madeline confronts Ernest. But the effect didn't look right again. So ultimately they used CGI instead, sort of a combination. What they did was they filmed her walking backwards wearing a blue hood on her head, and then separately filmed her head while she was wearing a blue bodysuit, and then they combined it with CGI in the end. I saw this interview where Meryl Streep was talking about the day that she had to walk around with the blue hood on her head all day, and that also happened to be the day that her mother visited the set, who did not understand why her super famous daughter was walking around without her face being shown. Okay, and then also, the mansion where Isabella Rossellini's character lived is just a tiny scale miniature. So the outside of that mansion that's so beautiful is just a scale miniature. And with Bruce Willis and Meryl Streep, when you see them aged by, 17 years or something like that? Or 7 years? I can't remember. That was all done with just practical makeup. And then Goldie Hawn's fat suit, which I'm sure we'll talk about, was also done totally practically as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hooray. Yay, practical effects.
So because of all of these techniques, the film won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, defeating Batman Returns and Alien 3. So Meryl Streep says that she
weirdly
loved...
okay with that. Yeah.
Right?
Weirdly
Like, if it's
okay
going to
with
be out one of the Alien movies, it's going to be that one.
Yeah, we'd be having a conversation with the two of the previous ones. But
Yes.
it's fine. Y'all remember that dog xenomorph, right?
So Meryl Streep really loved how the film turned out, but she has said that she will never do a CGI-heavy film again because it was so monotonous, and she likened it to being at the dentist. Yikes. All right, so just a few fun facts. Kevin Kline was originally top pick for the role, but then he heard that Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn were receiving higher pay for their shared lead roles. They made $4 million each, so he decided to walk away from the film.
Finally, some justice for rich white men. Finally, I'm so sick of them. The downtrodden white rich men.
The under-earning
Way
Hollywood
to champion
actors.
your people, Klein. Put them on the Mount Rushmore of Meninists. Give me a break. I mean,
Right.
Fish Called Wanda was good, but calm the fuck down.
Uh-huh. So while the movie was still in production, Bruce Willis actually suggested renaming the movie. His ideas were It's Death, Baby, or My Man Death. Luckily, producers thought that neither of these names would work because the movie is about aging and death from a feminine perspective. And
Also
so
because they heard them?
Also because Bruce
Yes.
Willis had finger guns when he was like pitching these names.
Right.
Jesus.
He was sitting on a bench in
so
front of Ariel's apartment with his dick out.
Yeah, with like
while pitching.
with Ray-Bans and a saxophone next to him. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh my God. That just reminded me, I'm listening to this podcast right now called Haleywood. Have you guys listened to that one?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's all about when Bruce Willis, back in the early 90s and stuff, essentially started buying up all this property in this tiny town to sort of create his own village. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. But yeah, he's got an ego.
You think?
All right. So during the scene where the two main characters are fighting with shovels, apparently they were actually using real shovels because Meryl Streep accidentally cut Goldie Hawn's face and left her with a little scar.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
I know. I always assumed with stuff like that they were using prop versions that you couldn't, that they added the metal sounds later or something, but maybe not. I don't know.
It's a real shovel, baby. Another alternate title.
Perfect.
No?
Nailed
No?
it.
Okay, thank you. Hollywood, call me.
So in the original cut of the film, Bruce Willis's character actually falls for a bartender played by Tracy Ullman, who helps him fake his own death and then run off to Europe to escape everyone. But apparently test audiences didn't think that ending was dark enough, so Zemeckis cut out that subplot entirely and shot a new, darker ending. But apparently if you watch the trailer, you can still see Tracy Ullman. For some reason, they didn't cut her out of the trailer.
So I hate that. I honestly hate that.
Yeah.
Okay, new rule. I hope someone's writing these down. Okay, no ambiguous endings.
Yes.
Movies should not exceed 70 minutes. And now, if it's in the trailer, it needs to be in the movie. If it's not going to be in the movie, it can't be in the trailer.
Agreed.
Because it is a bait and switch. It has happened to me multiple times where I've gone to a movie thinking, I want to see the context for this cool thing I saw in a trailer.
And then
I'm
it's not
thinking
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Star Wars Rogue One. Screw you, buddy. Screw you. Everything I liked about that trailer was not in the movie, and everything in the movie I did not like. That's not true. There were things I liked in it. But I was disappointed the whole time. Like that I Rebel, not in the movie. All right, sorry. Let's move on.
You're still so angry about that one.
Well, yeah.
Plus, it's Tracy Ullman. How do you cut a whole Tracy Ullman?
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Don't tease me with Tracy. If you're going to cut her, don't tease me with her.
Mhm.
Don't make Ullman-related promises to me that you don't intend to.
So it got pretty mixed reviews when it came out. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down.
Mhm.
But it did reach #1 at the box office, and it beat out the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, which was released that same weekend. It barely recouped its $55 million budget from its domestic takings and earned just shy of $150 million worldwide. So since its release, though, it has gone on to be a bit of a cult classic, especially for the queer community. It's often played at bars during Pride, and drag performers dress up as Madeline and Helen.
Of course.
And in
Of course.
fact, Rachel and Matilda will probably know this, but a couple of challenges on RuPaul's Drag Race have been based on the film.
Yep.
All right,
I
that's
mean,
what I
it's a
got.
classic. It is a
Yeah.
camp freaking
Yes.
classic.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So Matilda, what did you think of Death Becomes Hair, aka It's Death, baby?
Do you want me to do? Sorry, sidebar. Do you want me to do the synopsis before we get into?
Yes, thank you.
No, it's fine.
Matilda, can you give us the synopsis for Death Becomes Her, aka
Sure.
It's Death, baby?
It's death, baby. So this movie is from 1992, directed by Robert Zemeckis, like Ariel was talking about. Plain, uptight Helen Sharp loses yet another man to her longtime frenemy, fading celebrity and musical theater embarrassment, Madeline Ashton. Obsessed with winning Ernest back and with punishing Madeline, Helen returns to their lives physically transformed and attempts to exact her revenge. Both women have been offered eternal youth and beauty by a supernatural temptress, Isabella Rossellini, and both accept, but immortality has its price.
That it does.
All right, Tilly, what did you think of this movie?
So this, interestingly, was a first watch for me. I don't think
Really?
I ever... Yeah, I never
Really?
saw it
Oh,
the
that's
first time
crazy.
around. I think it was just a year that I wasn't going to the movies very much.
Mm-hmm.
That I had other stuff going on.
Sure.
But I do like what Rachel was saying. This is a camp classic, and you can't like put Meryl Streep in something where she has this much room and not enjoy her.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and although Goldie Hawn has never been like somebody I totally connected to, I think she's great in this. Honestly, what I really love are the special effects and the datedness of this movie. This movie is so of its time.
Oh, it's such a time capsule.
Yeah, and we'll get into this when we get into critiques a little bit more, but there's some of the body horror in this that I wish was a little bit more that I really enjoyed.
You wish it was a little more gruesome, or you wish that it had been done better?
No, I wish it was a little more gruesome and that we could have lingered there a little bit, like with the spray paint and the skin, and yeah.
Yeah, I this is not a first watch for me. I definitely saw this when it first came out, but I haven't seen it in decades. And so I was kind of like, I had fond memories of it, and then it started and I got a little bit worried.
Oh, really?
What's interesting, only like when we saw the fat suit.
Okay, yeah,
essentially.
Fair.
What's so interesting though is that her body type, which is such a cautionary tale in this movie, is like goals now. Like she is thick with 2 C's. And I was like, that ass is kind of great, actually. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It is so camp. It is so silly. It is so absurd. It's also like very visually tasty, and I'm not surprised that this has become a beloved sort of film of queer culture and drag queens in particular, because it really does have that intersection of camp and glamour.
Because there's so many like great ball gowns and sort of over the top outfits, like when Goldie Hawn is breaking in. You know, and she's got her little sort of high-class burglar outfit.
Oh yeah,
it's
great. Incredible. It is a camp fantasy, and then Isabella Rossellini is so great in this, and her costuming with that necklace.
Oh, I know, the no shirt, but just the giant statement necklace. It's so great.
Like I would, the degree to which her character loves her body, bitch, I wish. And I know it's probably not the most feminist thing to say, but I enjoy their feud immensely. Like,
well, because there's so much fun to watch. You know?
Yeah. There's like a joy and a lack of, like, it's not, I don't know. I guess there is something cynical about women competing, especially over the dubious prize of Bruce Willis's character in this.
Right. I mean, yeah.
But there's, because of the high camp factor, it harkens back to like, you know, when you think about like divas of old Hollywood, you know what I mean? When you think of like Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, like it has that sort of DNA like weaved into it in a way that is so great. Plus, I just feel like you can feel like a sense of fun between Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, like they seem to be aware of the camp in this.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie is so much fun to watch, is because it's like a masterclass in campy acting, and everybody is kind of at that same level. You know how sometimes you'll watch a movie and there'll be like one character that's doing camp, but nobody else seems to be aware of it? This movie, everybody is sort of on that same level, you know? The same kind of style of acting, and it works so well. And the two of them are the best at it. You know? Yeah.
Although I will say this is my favorite phase of Bruce Willis, like comedy, like spastic weirdo. Like Blind Date, Moonlight era Bruce Willis is my favorite. So I actually think Kevin Kline would have been great in this, because he definitely has that same kind of energy. But this is kind of a perfect role for this period of Bruce Willis. He I think he's quite fun, even though not worth fighting over.
Well, no, and I mean they're not even really fighting over him.
No, they're really not. Like, he is so, and that's one of the reasons maybe it still works for me, is because it becomes so clear that what they're really fighting about is a tension that's between them, and he is just sort of a byproduct of
he's
that.
just a pawn. And,
yeah.
It has nothing to do with how great he is, because
I will say, watching this at my current age, when I'm being ravaged by time, like, definitely was a different experience than watching it at like 12.
Right. No, I know what you mean, because I absolutely love this movie. I've seen it a ton of times because my friend Kate and I used to rent this and People Under the Stairs ad nauseum. We rented it over and over and over again.
Oh, wow.
So I've probably seen this movie a dozen times. Maybe not for at least a decade, but so it's definitely different. I don't think I really understood the age stuff at all when I was 10 years old and watching this.
Yeah. And I think this does a pretty good job. It's a little, I mean, I was thinking about the critiques that Matilda, you talked about how sometimes these movies that are like the horror is based in vanity is very unkind. And I think that's probably true in this movie. However, I also did kind of appreciate just sort of, I don't know, it's the anxiety of aging and the grotesquerie that people are willing to go to in order to avoid it, I think was pretty prescient and certainly something that I can connect with in 2022.
Right, because they're going to all these extreme over-the-top lengths to, keep up with that unfair beauty standard, but we're all doing some of that, right? It's just that it's so overblown and campy here.
Right, and even the spa owner comes in and tells Meryl Streep, I understand you have a very serious situation here.
Yeah.
Which is such a funny thing. I was saying to Rachel, it's so funny to see Meryl Streep in this because she is absolutely ageless. She has looked exactly like a hot 40-year-old woman at 30, at 50, at 60. I assume when she was 9 years old, she looked like a hot 40-year-old woman. So I think that also takes some of the sting out of it because she is so clearly beautiful and not in an emergency, at least to me.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if we as the audience are supposed to understand that she's like a hideous creature.
I mean,
it's a tough sell.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think I believe the head on backwards more than I believe that she was like an old hag.
Yeah.
When they added just a couple wrinkles to her face.
She has a slight circle under her eye. She's a monster. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this Robert Zemeckis of it all. I kind of love this super heightened slapsticky world that takes place in. It feels very soapy. It feels very soap dish, or it has a very particular vibe to it.
Yeah,
that I don't know exists in film anymore. And maybe that's what you mean by it's a product of its time in terms of even tonally.
Yeah. I can't think of another movie right now.
It feels like So I Married an Axe Murderer at points.
Yeah.
Which is a sweet spot in film as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
You don't expect there to be a fight on the top of a castle at the end of this movie. But when it happens, you're like, of course this is where this ended up. It was never going anywhere else. But like you said, a Fabio cameo and a castle rooftop fight.
Oh God, can we talk about those butler outfits?
Oh my God.
I was screaming with joy about how bad they were. It was
I love that they were named Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Oh, yes. Oh, I missed that.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And at first, when the first time you're in the castle, they're there, and then the second time you're in the castle, it's actually Fabio.
So cool.
Good. Of course it is. I loved all the celebrity cameos in this too. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
Oh yeah.
All Greta Garbo hanging out with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
and
Andy Warhol.
Yes. I don't know. I there's a very, very dark version of this story by Clive Barker called Cold Heart Canyon, which has way more double penetration than this movie. But
okay.
But it's kind of a in the Hollywood Hills, people frozen in time.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great, but like I said, more explicit.
Right, and you can really see this DNA in a lot of Ryan Murphy stuff, right? You can. I think there is something that's very of its time, which is this kind of late 80s, early 90s callback to 40s.
Yeah,
cinema.
That's a great way to put it.
It is essentially 80s does 40s.
Yeah.
Even though it's supposed to be set in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There is no 70s aside from the text that is on screen to be found in this
No,
film.
it looks nothing like the 70s at all.
It is all mommy dearest all the time. Yeah. All right. So you said you had some criticism for this. What were some things that maybe did not work for you, Matilda?
I think, the politics of this could be better, right? I feel like there's a missed opportunity
Yeah.
here, because I feel like the This is a movie about kind of the horrors of the gruesomeness that people go through around like stopping the clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like the first 20 minutes of this movie make it very clear that actually what is most valuable about women is their appearance.
Yeah.
And then spends the rest of the movie punishing them for buying into that.
Right, especially the way that the movie ends, because although I think the ending is pretty funny,
and cackling in the back of the funeral.
Yes, it's so funny, and the way they're like split into multiple pieces and asked, "Do you know where we're parked?"
Yes,
like it's so funny, and there's something really charming about it. But if you're trying to make a satirical critique of, you know, women who attempt to adhere to that unrealistic beauty standard, but then in the end, they're the ones punished for it, it does kind of undercut that message and ends up being more like, look at these crazy women and the crazy things they did to stay pretty, you know?
Right.
Look how vapid and vain they are.
And Bruce Willis is just this like poor guy who, of course, is powerless to resist Goldie Hawn when she comes back because she's so thin and youthful looking. And she keeps saying sexual and sensual in his face, and that means he is of course powerless, right? But he
must immediately murder his wife.
Yes, he's like the poor victim in this, right? And I feel like there's something in this dynamic then about like how little he calls Madeline it at a certain point, right? Like there's something in that dynamic that allows for a kind of uncomfortable license to throw her down the stairs, to hit her in the head with a shovel, to do all those things because she's not a person. She's just like a monstrous vanity creature.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that is unfortunate because I think it misses the opportunity to turn the lens on like the spa owner.
Well, and even Bruce Willis, who starts the movie out as a plastic surgeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's no critique of society or these, like you were saying, these sort of beauty institutions. It's all a critique of the women and their behavior.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And even he is like kind of diminished by his marriage to Madeline, right?
Right. Because afterwards, when they're doing the eulogy, he's obviously gone on to have children and grandchildren and philanthropy or whatever. It's like all these amazing things he's done with his life after he left them.
Right. And I feel like there was so much cool stuff about like him spray painting.
I love that
her
scene.
And like the way that she could be slowly crumbling underneath with this facade. I feel like there was a way that it would have been pretty easy to turn the camera, like to turn the lens on to thinking about that.
Sure.
That would be less mean.
Yeah.
So that's my critique. But I also is that I think it's like a missed opportunity. But I also think it's so of its time. It's almost like this time capsule of how Hollywood's ideas about women in this era function.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so much fun that it's hard for me to care that much.
Yeah.
I know that's fair.
Totally fair.
No, I think that's
generally we care about this stuff, but one, I have such good nostalgic feelings for this film, but two, it's like I have seen this so many times. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and yet I still found myself laughing and feeling joy at watching this ridiculous movie.
Oh, totally. This is a movie that is like the most misogynist song you've ever heard that is still like a real ass shaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's still,
to the windows, to the walls. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. Like, it is problematic in all of the ways that you would expect it to be. It does not rise above those kind of expectations. And it feels kind of, you know, there are some things where you're like, this film is doing harm, or this is reinforcing something in a way that I feel uncomfortable about its impact. This thing is so damn fluffy that I can't even really be mad at it for where it misses. I think it's fair to have those criticisms, but like you, I found myself being like, yeah, but Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn.
I know. Yeah. They're just so glorious. They're so much fun to watch. They just radiate on screen.
Yeah.
I think there's a counter argument that is not textual, that is about like how the movie, while talking about like shitty stuff around vanity and doing it in a way that is not super not with the message that we would like to have.
Right, just solidifies it, kind of. Yeah.
Yes. At the same time, the counter narrative is the existence of Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
The way that they carry this film and are desirable and beautiful and fabulous and interesting and stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there is kind of this unintentional outcome of highlighting these sort of like, by Hollywood standards, middle-aged women.
Right, because I think they were both in their 40s when this was filmed. So yeah.
Geriatric.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
And yet, here they are, beautiful, fascinating, aspirational in some degree, like in terms of the level of glamour, comedic chops, like all of those things, like, is a weird counter message.
Yeah,
I
totally agree. I totally agree.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think the stuff about body size is pretty bad. But
it's bad.
It's bad.
It's
100%
like,
bad. There's no getting around that.
Nope,
it is
bad.
Not good.
It is also like fairly accurate to the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like, it's bad.
But I think it's one of those things where it's like you can recognize it's not good, and that it shouldn't have been done, and still enjoy the movie. Like we can critique things we love.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I do think that there's like this idea that you can't, like, people think if you say something is problematic or you're critical about it, it means you don't like it or you can't like it.
Exactly.
And that's not true.
Not true at all. Yeah.
You can talk, like, there are plenty of problematic things out there that I can both hold, like, that this is an not okay representation, or this is, and still like have a nostalgic appreciation for it.
Yep. Totally.
Okay. Sorry, you were going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing that I think actually does hold up well is the special effects. And I don't mean that as in they totally look, as good as they would look if they were made today. Clearly they do not. But I think because they're done in such a cartoony, slapstick, silly kind of way, they still work super well considering they were done in 92.
Oh yeah.
It's the rare instance that they have, like, we talk about how sometimes practical effects don't hold up, but they still have a charm.
Yes.
And CGI is cold and does not.
Yep.
This is the rare example. This is the exception to the rule, right?
Exactly. Because it still has that
I think
charm.
the cartoony thing is what you get out with the cartoony thing is that place that creates the warmth and the charm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And there was something about like the uncanny valley of those effects, like Meryl Streep with her head on backwards and things like that, or like shoved down, like hit on the head and shoved down into her thing, that like, or Goldie Hawn with the hole through her, that there's something in that I feel like could have been played with a little bit about like the uncanny valley of Hollywood beauty.
Sure.
The problem is what was considered uncanny valley back then is kind of just
the
valley.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so right. Damn.
Like when you go back and watch Escape from LA and there's the whole like grotesque plastic surgeon thing, you just look at it and you're like, yeah, no, those are just real housewives.
Yeah, that's just that's just what it is now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so who would you recommend this film? Yes or nay? Yay or nay?
Absolutely.
Of course. 100% to everybody.
Me too. It's kind of like a Beetlejuice for the ladies. Check it out. All right. So the next film that I selected, and I'm very curious what you think about this, is The Witches of Eastwick from 1987, directed by George Miller. Yes, that George Miller of Mad Max fame.
So weird.
It is. When that came, I didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
This is a movie that I have not seen in 20 plus years. And so when what came up and it said George Miller, I was like, hold, must go to IMDb. Yes,
right.
It's Mad Max, George Miller.
Mad Max and all of the Happy Feet, George Miller.
What? Right. His career is actually fascinating. The stuff that he's done is like, it is the most eclectic mix of films. Truly. Okay, so this was released in theaters in 1987, and like Death Becomes Her, there is a lot of lore and background about this movie. So I, like Ariel, kind of tried to focus on the things that I thought were most interesting, but truly, like, we could do a whole episode that is just about the making of this movie. It is nuts. Okay, so it was directed by George Miller. The score was done by John Williams. Again, yes, that John Williams of Star Wars, Raiders, and E.T. fame.
Oh, that's so
many
interesting.
others.
I did not realize that. Weird.
It has a runtime of 1 hour and 58 minutes, which is too long.
Oh my God.
It had a budget of $22 million, and at the box office, it earned $63.8 million, and it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards
Really?
for sound and music in
Okay.
1988.
Okay, gotcha.
It did win the BAFTA for Best Special Effects in 1988, though.
Okay, I can see that.
Right. So this was filmed mainly in Cohasset, I'm sure I'm saying that right, Massachusetts and surrounding towns. And it follows many of the major story beats from the novel on which it's based, which same title by John Updike. But this version is much more lighthearted in its tone compared to the much darker delivery in the book.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't imagine John Updike writing this movie, you know?
Okay, so here's some details about how it differs.
Okay.
In the novel, which is set in the 1970s, Van Horn is somehow even more skeevy than he is in the book or in the movie, even though he does not end up impregnating the women, which we'll, I'm sure, talk about.
Yes.
He does, however, randomly marry a young woman named Ginny, who becomes the target of revenge for the witches, who is given cancer and killed off by them.
Oh, shit.
Lots of penis worship in both the film and the movie. But okay.
Yeah.
In the end, Van Horn flees with Ginny's younger brother, who it is implied has become his new lover. And several different versions of the film's ending were shot after the original bombed with test audiences.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, director George Miller revealed in an early 1990s interview that his naivete around how Hollywood productions were made turned him against was turned against him by studio executives. This was definitely a fraught production.
Okay.
Let's just say. Yes, he recalled how in order to save the film's budget, they would send him half as many extras as he requested and wouldn't provide enough equipment and so on. So he retaliated by refusing to continue filming until his requests were filled. The studio made moves to replace him, surprise, surprise, but Jack Nicholson stepped in and sided with the director, causing the execs to back down. That was just the beginning of a lot of fighting on the set. I will say, though, that Jack Nicholson was actually not the first person cast to play Daryl Van Horn. Can you guess who dropped out?
No.
One William Murray.
Really?
Bill Murray was originally, which would have been a very different vibe.
That would have been such a different movie.
Yeah.
Rolling around on the bed talking about being a horny devil.
Actually, I kind of want to see that.
I do too.
So, Angelica Houston, Nicholson's girlfriend at the time, auditioned for the role of Alexandra.
Okay.
But it went to Susan Sarandon. I know what you're thinking. Alexandra wasn't Susan Sarandon. Well, that's because Cher was offered the role of Jane, but liked Alexandra more, so she was ultimately given the role she wanted.
Huh.
Damn.
Bad news for Sarandon, who was not informed of the change until she arrived on set.
Oh my God, that's so brutal. Wasn't Susan Sarandon a pretty big star by 87?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in an interview from 2020, Sarandon said that despite Cher stealing her role as Alexandra thanks to a past liaison with producer John Peters, they and Pfeiffer actually got along great. They would gather for lunch daily with Nicholson in his tent. And according to Sarandon, the three women would had to bond to, quote, survive the shoot.
Oh, shit.
Which saw producer John Peters throwing chairs in fits of rage, and Miller, the director, who quit twice.
Damn. How do you get anything done in that situation? That is so crazy. Also, I feel like their chemistry on screen makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So Nicholson and Miller did not actually want Cher in the film.
Okay.
So in a story accounted by Cher on stage, she talked about something that happened on her 40th birthday in 1986.
Okay.
In the morning, my telephone rang and the man said, "Hi, Cher, it's George Miller." And I said, "Hey, George." So he said, "I just wanted to call and tell you that I don't want you in my movie. Jack Nicholson and I think you're too old and you're not sexy. Good morning, 40.
Oh my God.
Tears started streaming down my old face. I was
Oh,
heartbroken.
shit.
I wanted this movie so badly. Usually in Hollywood, if you insult somebody, you hang up, she said. Miller kept at it, though. He didn't want to hang up. He just wanted to tell me everything. I hate the way you walk. I hate the way you talk. I hate the color of your hair. I don't like your eyes. Cher hit back before hanging up on Miller. So finally I was like, okay, look, motherfucker. Yeah, I said the whole thing. I said, you didn't find me under a rock. I was nominated for an Academy Award for Silkwood. I got the Cannes Film Festival Award for Best Actress for Mask. So goodbye.
Yeah.
Get him, Cher. Get him.
She's right. Also, she looks spectacular in this movie.
Oh,
so he can go fuck himself.
I did not know that sweats and cowboy boots were a look, but now I do.
Yes.
But now like rolled up sweats to giving her a fat ass camel toe. I'm like, yes, bitch, work.
Even those ridiculous pigtails looked great on her.
Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Everything about it. Everything
crop
about
shirt
it.
under the overalls.
Yes.
Queen shit. Queen. Okay, so in a 1986 TV interview, Cher said it was intimidating to work with Nicholson at first because he was her, quote, idol. In the same interview, Sarandon describes how the majority of her seduction scene with Nicholson was shot with each actor performing their part at different times, which made it difficult to convey the convincing connection with each other.
Like not being in the same room?
Yeah, essentially. Yes. And all three of the actors agreed while making the film they had no idea how it was going to turn out because it was so random. The Lennox Mansion was actually two other properties, the Crane Estate in Castle Hill, Ipswich, Massachusetts, which served as the exterior, and the interior is the lobby of the appropriately named Wang Center in Boston. All right, so here's just some random trivia. In the same interview that I just quoted a minute ago, the three would sit down together in their makeup trailer and dreamcast the TV series or musical spinoff of the film. Cher said she envisioned herself being played by Linda Carter, and that they all thought that the perfect person to play Daryl was Eric Estrada from Chips.
Interesting.
Yeah, real twist on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a TV series from 1999 based on the film Eastwick, which ran for 13 episodes between 2009 and 2010. It starred Jamie Ray Newman, Lindsay Price, and Rebecca Romaine as the new characters Kat, Joanna, and Roxy. It was canceled after season 1. It was also adapted, well, the novel was, into an award-winning West End play that premiered in 2000. In the film, a life-size puppet version of Veronica Cartwright, which... whoa, we'll have to talk about her, was built for the film so it could animate while swiveling in various directions, spraying huge amounts of fake vomit from its mouth. It can briefly be seen near the end of the scene where she meets her fate. Test audiences apparently thought it was the animatronic was way too creepy, so almost all the footage has been edited out of the film, much to my personal chagrin.
Oh,
yeah, I want to see that.
Seen it.
I want to go to that Chuck E. Cheese also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Splash Zone is, they really mean be careful in the Splash Zone. Okay, last fun fact. The film's producer, John Peters, who, two fun facts, because apparently the scene where Cher had to, like, get into the bed with all the snakes, those are real snakes. Oh. And she asked, which of these snakes is John Peters? So, no love lost there. But, okay, so film producer John Peters became obsessed at one point with the idea of aliens appearing in the film.
What?
He went so far as to bring a stunt performer dressed as an alien to the set and pleaded
what is happening?
For George Miller to include him in any scene. All right, that's what I got for the background of this movie. And truly, I could have gone on and on and on.
That is crazy, but I feel like with this context, the movie kind of makes more sense. That there was this much nonsense happening in the background.
It is a wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my background. What is this insane movie about?
So this movie is about three single and somewhat repressed best friends. Alex, a sculptress, played by Cher. Jane, who's a classical cellist, played by Susan Sarandon. And Suki, a journalist, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And they're feeling the confines of their stuffy New England town of Eastwick.
Ooh, yeah.
Drinking together one night, they fantasize about an ideal man to liven things up. Shortly after, the mysterious Daryl Van Horn moves into the town's historic mansion with his butler, Fidel. Lurch.
Old Big Dick Fidel.
Despite being crude, insulting, and according to Alex, a little smelly, Daryl manages to break through the friends' defenses and seduce each and all of them. Through their time with Daryl, the friends blossom emotionally and sexually, much to the horror of the town. Though as more mysterious doings begin to occur, the friends begin to wonder about Daryl's mesmerizing hold on them and seek to regain their power.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. This movie has such a large cultural footprint. Everybody knows what this movie is, and I thought I remembered it, but this movie is way hornier.
It is so horny.
Yeah.
I was very surprised upon revisit. Just I remembered that it definitely was the first time I ever had seen anything about group sex, and I wasn't totally sure I understood what I was seeing, but I was am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it blew my mind. But I did not remember that this whole thing is kind of like that.
Oh, that's all I remembered.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go.
So,
all right.
I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. I watched it as a little kid on TV with my mom.
The shit we watched as kids.
I know, but I don't think I really understood all of it. I think I was probably maybe 8 years old at the time because all I really remember was that balloon scene where the kids are running through the balloons, and that takes approximately 30 seconds in the entire runtime. So clearly a lot went over my head. But then I randomly watched it a couple months ago, just out of the blue.
Yeah.
And was like...
Maybe that's how this started, is you watched it and I was like, we should do that.
Yeah. So, and I watched it, and every scene, I was just like, what is happening? How did I watch this as a little kid? This movie is crazy. But I have to say, as weird as it is, it's very entertaining. I watched it a second time the day before yesterday, and I was still entertained, I still had fun watching it, even though I had just seen it a couple months ago.
Nice. What'd you think, Matilda?
Yeah, I mean, this one always had a special place in my heart. So I was 13 when this came out. So this was just this has a special place in my heart because it was hedonistic goals, and my memory of this movie does not include Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that's great.
Interestingly, but it has this kind of feminist, sex positive debauchery element to it that I was super interested in as a teenager. Not anymore.
The lies.
And really, any 80s movie like this one, where you are upsetting to uptight townspeople, you're upsetting to old rich white people, you're upsetting to the traditions of a particular place, it's always a good time for me.
Yeah.
The hair in this movie is so
When
good.
I saw her in the grocery store, I was like, well, Matilda just left
scene.
this ethereal place.
Right?
I love that scene so much.
The story of Susan Sarandon's sexual awakening through her hair, from the French braid to the hair that fills a grocery store aisle.
Well, she's if Magenta and Carol Kane had a baby.
Yes.
I was
good one.
Yeah, Matilda's losing her mind right now.
That's exactly the scene. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And I love how she's just walking through, just eating this pickle, and all these women are just so scandalized by her. Oh, so good.
I would have been so drawn.
Oh yeah. I was like, oh, this,
just...
and it is like Magenta. It is kind of that was a kind of archetype of movie character I was very interested in, and was very formative for me. In my uptight white town.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I don't need to watch this movie. I lived it.
Yeah. I also love this is a little spoiler. I love the scene where they torture him from afar.
Yes. Oh, it's such
great.
A good scene.
It's a good scene. Although I was watching it now, I was just like, if they were eating all those cherry pits, wouldn't he just have fruiteria? I know that's not cinematic, but that's a lot of cherries.
He had frontal fruiteria.
That's a lot of cherries.
Ever look at cherries the same way again?
Yeah.
It was so funny. We were settling in to watch, we'd watched it in 2 parts, and so we watched the first half and then we watched the second half, and my partner settled in with a little snack.
Oh no.
The next scene, and I was like, timing of this is not great, but I can't spoil it, so here we go.
Oh, and those scenes with the cherry pits are so good.
They're so good. Honestly, all of the Veronica Cartwright stuff, I
Mhm.
think, is ace. She goes places in this movie. Like, you think that, peak camp is going to be, Jack Nicholson as the devil. Like, what could be more heightened than that? Exhibit A,
Yeah.
Veronica Cartwright with her, like, that, her final sort of monologue before she explodes in cherry vomit, like, it's wild. Like, she's actually kind of incredible and goes some, like, really unselfconscious places.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like, she is the ultimate embodiment of the, like, but what about the children?
Mhm.
Oh,
And
that scene where she's just screaming in the middle of church about the women. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
She's so over the top.
And it's 1987, right? So I assume this is like
Yeah.
full moral majority stuff
yes.
that we're playing
Mhm.
with. That I really
Yes.
and kind of like New England, like historical society stuff. Like, she's upset about what
Correct.
he's doing to the house. You
Mhm.
can't just live there, right?
I mean, yes, exactly. I feel like this is strangely like an excellent companion piece to Stepford Wives.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
But it's like what happens when women get sexually empowered
Mhm.
versus what happens when men find themselves sexually
Yeah.
empowered
Yeah.
and fuck robots. Like that, and partially it's like that sort of, Eastern utopian white upper middle class to wealthy kind of vibe. Like, I don't know, they both feel like critiques of a very particular type of American culture.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this much more than I probably should. I think it's weirdly, I'm pretty into it, like, sexually.
Uh-huh.
But I think it has very little to do with Jack Nicholson so much as it does, like, the ladies.
You're not into his tiny
yeah.
blue ribboned ponytail.
No, none of this is working for me.
Why is he so unappealing in this movie, though? What's the point of that?
I mean, I don't know that everyone would feel that.
I don't think we're
way.
supposed to feel that way, but yeah, he strikes me as like that guy Mystery, the pickup artist. I think has watched this movie
He's
a lot.
negging them into bed,
Yes!
essentially.
Yeah.
Yes,
He negs them
but
into
also,
bed.
I mean, even the very first scene we're introduced to him, he's like grotesquely snoring in the middle of a concert. Like, why is that supposed to be
I
appealing?
mean, I think it's meant to be negging that he's sleeping through her performance,
Yeah.
but also, like, I think there's something that is so uptight about that town that when
he's so
he is like
unselfconscious.
breaking he's breaking the social contract. Like,
That's true.
Very,
Yeah, he's just an id.
Like-
yeah.
But
yeah.
all of his clothes and his weird hair.
Oh, awful.
yeah. I mean, I think that's part of it. Like, I think that's part of it. What I kind of love is the takedown of the, like, dude that uses feminist language or, like,
Yes.
the identity of feminism. To
I wish I
seduce,
was a
and then
woman.
all that shit and how it gets so exposed later that, like, underneath that is just seething misogyny
Yeah.
Yep.
when he's doing his diatribe during the church. I think
Mhm.
pretty freaking great.
Yeah.
I think all the women's performances are amazing, especially, like I said, Veronica Cartwright, and then also Cher.
Yeah,
Cher's
Cher's
fucking
great.
great in this. I think she got to do the most.
Mhm.
Like, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. Her character is not one I'm going to be drawn to because, like, the power of her fertility is not going to be something that I'm like, ooh, this is an interesting plot line. Tell me more.
Sure.
And I love Susan Sarandon too, but I think there's an undercurrent of anger that I connected with
Cher. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ariel? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I just think this movie is so very, very strange, but is also extremely entertaining. And I really love that the center of it, even though there's all this like crazy stuff going on and the weird stuff with Jack Nicholson, we have this like core friendship between the three women that runs throughout that's really satisfying because, in the end, it's the three of them together again. And, we can have some critiques about exactly how all of that happens, I'm sure. But I do enjoy that part. And I love sort of the evolution that everybody goes through. I mean, Susan Sarandon's is the most obvious and probably the most satisfying, where she goes from being so mousy to then this sort of sexual awakening where she comes into her own. And it's just great. I love everybody's hair. My question is to you, Rachel, is Susan Sarandon's hair a wig or is that her hair?
There's definitely some.
Yeah.
It's a combo deal. It's not like a full. It's not a full like lace front situation. I don't even think they had lace fronts then, but there are pieces in the hair.
Okay.
For sure. Also, we're going to talk about crazy hair. I very, very, very much enjoyed the terribleness and the wildness of Jack Nicholson. Especially when he turned into kaiju Jack Nicholson in the end.
Great.
I didn't remember that at all.
I did not.
I was so delighted by both kaiju and then also melted Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, melted Jack Nicholson was great. I mean, that final scene, like Matilda was talking about, it's so drawn out where they're doing this magical spell and all these things to the kind of wax voodoo doll Jack Nicholson, and it's so much fun watching him careening around the streets and then, on the back of his car. I'm so sorry. My cat will not stop crying.
It's like, and then the dog grabs the doll. Like, all of it is kind of slapsticky and fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun and so satisfying to watch. And even them just sort of like running through the mansion. It's so much fun. Also, there are so many silk bathrobes and pajamas in this movie.
Oh yeah.
It really made me want
yes.
it,
Like the scene where they're they're seducing him the final time and they're all just on the bed and they're various like, personality appropriate
in their color
lingerie.
Sexiness lingerie. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, honestly, the art direction in this movie is beautiful.
Yeah,
why is there not an Academy Award for hair though? Because there
should won one. Yeah.
I mean, was that the special effects it was Awesome. All right, so we've all said very positive things about this movie. I feel like there are some valid criticisms and we are just the crew to do it. So let's talk about maybe things that didn't work for you, Miss Matilda.
Jack Nicholson.
Oh,
fair.
That horny little devil.
I mean, on the other hand, I feel like this is, his true form in a particular way. And the fact that we're not supposed to be like cringing away from the screen has been a confusion that I have had for my entire life.
Oh, wow.
About Jack Nicholson in anything, honestly. Because this is kind of how I see him. And I guess maybe I do have memories of this movie because this is how I see him. Kind of like, I assume this is who he is as a person.
Kind of film. Yeah.
But yeah, the pickup artist negging, kind of like awful, negging them into bed, like mansplain, like, what you really need to do is big sculptures, kind of thing was awful.
Really
But he was it's so interesting that he's not totally in my memory about what's great about this movie. It's just it's that scene where he's off to the side, but the three of them are kind of like all laying all over each other eating grapes.
Oh, such a good scene.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with Matilda. I think he is like remarkably unappealing in this movie, but I also think that's part of the fun of it too, because especially in the later scenes where he's like watching the video of them back and forth and he's just sort of grotesque and hasn't showered and his hair is a mess. There's something kind of fun about that part of it. So I think that what's sort of interesting about the movie is that like they think that their power is coming from him, right? For the longest time in this movie and from their relationship to him. But in the end, they're able to work together to defeat him, which is, really satisfying. But they only ever really use their magic or their witchcraft in relation to a man, right? So it's like the first scene where they summon him. It's all about talking about a guy. The magic they do in his mansion, it's all sort of around this sexual relationship that they have with him. And then they do it to rid themselves of him, except that they don't totally rid themselves of him. I mean, they're forced to basically carry his male offspring, and then he continues to insert himself into their lives in the end. I don't know. I think it's like the messaging is a little weird.
Does not exactly pass the Bechdel test, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, this movie is the ultimate Bechdel fail. Yeah. I mean, I do. Okay, so I feel two ways about that ending with the kids. On one hand, they seem very happy to be having the kids. Like, it's not that interesting of an ending to me, but there is something about the fact that they're raising these 3 sons without his, like, basically forcing him to have no influence in their life.
That's true, and they can.
So
bring
they're
them up how
raising
they
the
want
next
them.
generation
Yeah.
of boys.
Mhm.
I don't know that that's what the movie was saying, but I
Maybe.
do think there's, from a 2022 perspective, as you're watching it, there is something interesting about that. Like,
Yeah.
that he has a particular worldview that is extremely toxic and dated, and they are 3 women who have been through this experience with him, excised him, like violently excised him from their life, and are now raising a new generation of boys. Is there something interesting about that? I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I totally agree.
Mhm.
And that's what I mean, that the messaging is just sort of mixed and weird, where you
Mhm.
can kind of
Oh,
see it
totally.
both ways. And it doesn't feel like the movie totally landed with what it wanted to do. Like, it
No.
didn't completely understand what it was trying to say, even though the whole movie seems to be trying to say something very loudly. Do you know what I mean?
To be fair, it's like a feminist story told by John Updike and George Miller.
Right.
That it's mixed, I think, is a
Right.
positive.
I mean, it's the same thing with Death Becomes Her. It's like that was written by 2 men and directed by another dude. You know?
Yeah. And I think both of them
Suffer because of that, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's evident,
Yes.
but also at the same time, there's some there.
Yeah,
that
I
I
totally
think
agree.
works with both of them. And I do think the core friendship and straying from the, like, nastiness of the source material was the right call. Because they're much less sympathetic in the book, apparently. And
Okay.
I don't know that I'm that interested. Not that I think a character has to be sympathetic, but I think that, John Updike sort of says one of the reasons he wrote the book was to kind of, like, address his feminist detractors in his audience. And
Oh,
so,
boy.
like, in that case, oh boy, is correct. And so I think that in that respect, I don't necessarily want to read about, I don't know. It's complicated. Like, I like really complex and, like, villainous women,
Yeah.
but I want them to be written in a particular way that is not, like, steeped in misogyny or, like, counter-feminist narrative.
Right.
Right. There's no enjoyment in that then.
Well, and that the
you know?
ultimate villain is the prude.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's,
Yeah. I also
I mean, I kind of
appreciate
like,
that-
I like that she's the villain, but I also, when you put it like that, it complicates it for me a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was thinking about her more in the kind of like conservative PMRC kind of
Well,
way.
I do
but-
think you nailed it with that whole, like, moral majority, like, as reigning cultural champion at the time.
Mhm.
And she is the absolute embodiment of, like, the explicit lyrics logo on his
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
God damn, is Veronica right? Fucking great in
Oh,
that.
I know.
know.
She's so good at what
When
she
she
does.
breaks her legs and she's like, I think I've broken my leg.
and
I'm
the
just
bone
like,
is sticking out of her leg.
"Ah!" That scene. What is with all the stairs in these movies? Oh. All right. Any other things you wanted to say, positive or critical, about Witches of Eastwick?
The only other thing I would say is that I appreciate that they kind of kept their evolution to the end of the movie, so that, like, even after they've defeated him, it's not like Susan Sarandon's character kind of backtracks. Do you know what I mean? Like, that sort of power and sexuality that she embodied is still there. At
That's
the end,
true.
in that final
Like, we don't
scene.
see them back in, like
No.
they've not transformed back. Like, they
Yes.
have definitely evolved.
They've
That's a
kept that
really
power.
good
Yes.
point.
And I
Yeah.
appreciate that, like, there's a moment where they're going to start fighting
Yes.
and the ground opens up and they're all like, okay, we got to cut that shit out.
Yep.
Right.
Right. Like, it's the 3 of us. Like, cut that shit out. So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
This movie also really made me want to eat ice cream in bed. Cher's like sitting there with the ice cream, and I was just like, "Yes, bitch, that's my sexual orientation. You haven't awoken. It is awoken." All right, awesome. So overall, would you recommend Witches of Eastwick, Matilda?
Yes.
Ariel.
Oh yeah, it's a weird, fun time. Watch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Easy recommendation. I mean,
Mhm.
grown folks only, but easy recommendation for adults.
I have to say that there was a period of time in, like, the late 80s, early 90s, where as a kid watching stuff, I was convinced that a big part of sex was giving, like, hand jobs, but with your foot under tables. I feel like that shows up in so many things. Like, there's a scene with Chandler and Friends. There's this movie. There's that movie. Did you guys ever see Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's also in Flashdance.
Yes,
Yeah?
exactly. It's in so many
It
movies.
really is.
I really thought that was going to be a big part of it, you know?
I want to know about the first time you tried to whip out that move. Like, was the person like, what is happening? You're like, this isn't that part of the ceremony?
Oh my God. Now I'm picturing Ariel in the suit from Flashdance, which is just a men's suit with just the bow tie, like the Chippendales outfit.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on to our listener feedback. We did actually get a couple of emails this time.
Hooray.
And they're both about Matilda.
Oh, no.
Sorry. No, they're not. Neither of them are bad. One of them we actually already read on More Deadly. So this may sound familiar to listeners. But since it's about you, Matilda, I'm going to read it again. Okay. It's not. Neither of them are bad.
Oh, no. I
promise.
I'm saying I'm sorry because I'm sure I'm getting things. I just apologize. I'm happy to issue a correction for whatever it was I said.
Matilda, work on yourself.
I don't think you've ever said anything on any of the podcasts that needed a correction.
No.
I have definitely, but I don't think you have.
Neither of these things are these things. Okay, so this first one comes from Peter. He says, More Deadly, Matilda's second guest spot, question mark? Just curious if either of you hear it or if it's just me. But if you said that Matilda directed the Midnight Swim, I would have just nodded and said, cool, that's great, good for her. To my ear, Sarah Adina Smith sounds very similar to Matilda. Tone, quality, articulation, etc. I only get to hear Matilda's lovely voice on ZG once or twice a month. One of the many lovely voices. The 4+1 Mars, +1 Jody. I really miss Jody. So maybe I'm way off. More Deadly is fantastic. Okay, this is nice stuff about More Deadly. Thanks for the current and continuing education, Peter.
Oh, thanks, Peter.
Have you? I don't know if you've listened.
I haven't listened to that one. No.
So you're gonna have to listen to that interview
so
you can see if the voice is the same.
Yeah. Although it's always weird because you're like, wait, is that? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to know your own voice.
Because you sound so different in your own head. It's very hard. It's taking me a long time to get used to listening to my own voice when we're editing.
Yeah.
A long time.
I mean, I'm like a decade in and still like every time I speak. So, but I mean, I had a great conversation with the director. I thought she was great. So
she was awesome.
Yeah, I've been waiting till I can watch that till I have time to watch that movie to do it. So I'm super excited.
Oh, I think you're gonna like the movie.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too. All right, so here is a new one. This one comes from our good buddy Doug, who is a frequent writer inner, which I always appreciate a good message from Doug.
Is Doug the one who created the idea for our Twitch channels or whatever it was?
Yes. Oh, nice.
Okay.
Now I'm excited. Okay.
So this one it says, a slasher film for Matilda.
Oh.
Yep. I think I may have found the elusive slasher film to convert Matilda to its more interesting qualities. The 1970s classic Queens of Evil. Now, I have a trailer, so we'll have you watch the trailer in just a second. But here is the synopsis. Link real quick. Boop, 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 boop,
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Me neither. So we'll all watch it simultaneously and then give our feedback. All right. So here is the synopsis from Doug. A young motorcyclist helps a man with a flat tire who ends up dead after crashing his car. It's already very complex plot. The young man takes a detour into the forest and stumbles on a lakeside house occupied by 3 sisters. Oh God, is it us? But they're not who they pretend to be. Okay, this is apparently a slasher, although the description does not sound like a slasher. So everybody let me know when you've got it loaded up, and we will watch it as a coven.
Maybe that's the name of the chat.
Right. Oh, I like it. All right, you guys ready? I'm going to count 3, 2, 1, play.
Okay.
So we can kind of have them be similar. 3, 2, 1, play. All right. Oh. Oh, I guess it's in
Italian.
Okay.
I think I watched this with my dad.
I'm into this hair. Hair.
Oh,
lots of
I'm into that hair.
Yeah, a lot of good hair in this so far. Oh, tidy whities of the tightest
Lots of
variety.
kissing.
I'm into this
Smooching.
madam puppet bathroom.
This feels like a reverse on Witches of Eastwick here, where they're
Yeah.
all seducing the one. Whoa.
Oh
whoa.
my.
I don't know what I just saw.
I don't know.
Is Doug just like making us watch porn? Is that happening right now? Did he
It kinda
just
feels
trick
like
us?
that's where we're going.
You know
with
what,
this.
Doug? You're gonna have to start Venmoing me if you want me to watch these things for you.
Oh,
What is
look at that
happening?
hair.
Look at that unibrow.
Okay, we're finally to the motorcycle. Oh.
Look at that little romper. I will say this trailer is telling me nothing about the plot of the movie.
No, it really isn't. I cannot figure out exactly what's happening here. Well, now, I mean, she's chasing him. Is she the villain?
I mean,
Oh, is it all the women are going to kill the guy?
is it a slasher if there's only one victim?
I don't know. No?
Oh my God, the clothes in this.
I know, the
Okay,
bathrobe.
if this
Such
isn't
big
porn, it
hair.
is. If this is not porn, it is like fashion and hair porn for me.
Yeah.
The thrilling Moderno. I speak Italian. It just happened. Unthrilling. Ew, I don't know that last word. But unthrilling? I don't. Ooh.
Ooh, were
Ooh.
those like intestines or something?
Is that advanced meat, Matilda?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm into every piece
All
of
the
clothing
dresses.
he's touching.
Ooh, that one was see-through. I
Whoa.
like it.
Ooh, owl.
Nope.
Who's
Lots of
this
eyes.
silver fox?
Okay, here comes a knife finally.
Yeah. Okay, are all these people victims?
Is this
'Cause
like
then
a-
now we're getting into enough people for there
a
to be a
cult?
slasher body count. It's a long trailer.
Interesting.
Back on the bike.
Is this like the guy who got away?
Or is this the beginning?
Yeah, or is this the
I don't know. I
beginning
can't.
of the
I didn't pay attention to the state of his ascot at the beginning.
movie? Yeah, you gotta keep track of the ascot, man.
That's the decoder ring.
Yeah.
That's the ascot.
Right.
It's like the hair in Violation.
Violation, yeah.
So my takeaway is I do think this looks interesting and this might be interesting to you, Matilda. I don't know if it's a slasher.
Yeah, it's hard to call it a slasher from that trailer alone, but we haven't seen the movie, so maybe that trailer is weird.
It has,
And it is a slasher.
yeah,
film.
and it has a nice like Italian Stepford Wives meets Manson Girls kind of quality.
Yes.
to it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're so right on.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that's
it's
exactly
kind
it.
of vintage Italian cinema, which might be, you
Mhm.
know, put me in mind to like things I've watched with my dad. So I am going to try
Maybe
this.
we need to watch it.
You're going to
for
bring
a
this over
bonus
next time you hang
episode.
with your
Yeah,
dad?
I'm sure my dad has this. I'm going to have to ask my dad about it because this is, although 60s was more his era of Italian cinema, but yeah, I'm in. I'm going to try this.
All right.
Okay. All right, we await your
Okay.
review.
Yeah, let us know.
Thanks, Doug.
Awesome. All right, so that's it for listener feedback for this episode. If you guys want to get in touch with us like Doug, please do drop us an email at rachel@zombiegrrlz.com, or you can chat with us over on the Zombie Grrlz Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ZG Podcasts Plural. If you're a patron, you can hop on and chat with us on the Discord. And if you're loving the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pods, including Spotify. You're already on there to listen to Joe Rogan, I assume. So while you're there, JK, while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It would make us feel really, really good. And if you're enjoying the show, you know, we don't do like a ton of marketing, but if you wanted to tell a friend about us, that would not bum us out. And if you're looking for some cool new gear, check out our merch. We've got some awesome shirts. We actually have some new designs coming soon. So check out our merch at zombiegrrlz.com/merch. And if you love us and you want to support us, again, join our Patreon at patreon.com/zombiegrrlz, where all of our episodes are extended, including this one, where we're going to do, I don't know, it's going to be a little bit of a
Grab bag?
yeah, I was going to say potluck, but grab bag is probably a
Yeah.
better descriptor.
That's better than junk drawer, right? That's like,
Yeah, but it's more quality time with the ZGs you love and also me. So, yeah, you want to do that. Okay. And what else? Streaming pick. I do have one. It's not necessarily a new film, but it's one that I feel like people may have passed on when it first came out because it doesn't look that good. And you're like, I don't know. But it's actually pretty fun. And it's on Netflix, and it's a little film called Till Death, starring the one and only Megan Fox in her, the beginning of her Megan Fox Assance, which I'm here for. And the synopsis is, after a romantic evening in their secluded lake house, Emma awakens handcuffed to her dead husband. Whoops. Trapped and isolated in the dead of winter, she must fight off hired killers to escape her husband's twisted plan. And honestly, it's pretty great.
It's great.
Pretty fun.
It's so much fun. Yeah, I had it on my top 10 list for a lot of last year because I just enjoyed the heck out of it. It's a really good time.
Yep. She's pretty great in it. It's a very fun, pretty tense little thriller, and it'll make you a Fox fan, I think. She gives a very physical performance.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so next episode, I know we like to announce it, but we don't actually know because Sarah is in charge. So just assume it's probably going to be interesting.
Probably either sharks attack or corpse fucking. One or the other. We'll let you know.
Or puppet sex or really good kids movies.
That's true.
Or really good
that
kids
is
movies.
True.
That was such a great episode.
Fun one.
Frankenweenie and
Yeah.
Paranorman. That was a good one. All right. Well, until next time, who would like to take us out? Unless they're sticking around for the extended episode because you're cool and you're part of the Patreon. Just saying bye.
Was that your outro?
Nope.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Zombie Grrlz Podcast. We had such a good time talking about these old campy movies. We would love to hear from you and know what you guys thought of these. So drop us a line and we'll catch you back here next month. Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and to all my co-hosts for waking up early every month just to talk about horror movies with me. Production on this episode was done by yours truly. Our theme song for the show is 80s Halloween Horror by Megan McDuffie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the extended episode where we're going to be talking about beauty treatments gone wrong. Because, I mean, let's be honest. We've all made a mistake. We've done things that were meant to make us feel good, but end up making us feel real bad. But now they can make us laugh because tragedy plus time equals comedy. No, Matilda, this was your suggestion for the extended episode topics. So I'm going to let you take it away because I feel like you have some stories to tell.
I do, and I'm kind of torn about which one of these to talk about.
Interesting, because my story will also result in me being torn. Continue.
Oh. So I feel like there's the kind of like I'm of an age that I have a perm story.
Okay.
And then I also have a DIY hubris story about beauty treatment.
I wonder if we have a shared hubris story.
Well, I involved you in my hubris, I feel like.
Oh.
Because I texted you after
maybe,
it had
okay,
happened.
then definitely not. Okay.
Yeah, so the perm one is just that, like, I grew up in the 80s, and I was really into Flashdance as a kid, and I brought that album cover.
Was it the foot sex?
It was not the foot sex. But I did bring that album cover into the salon and was like, make it happen.
Amazing!
And if you've met me, you know that I have fairly straight hair. Like, my hair is the Hollywood I'm a bitch haircut. Right, the like
you care more about business than pumping out children, right. So you're a monster.
That's right, the, like, careerist Bob, right?
Yes.
So like the Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction Bob.
Yes.
And so my hair is not naturally like Jennifer Beals in Flashdance, right? Or say like Susan Sarandon in The Witches of Eastwick, much to my chagrin. So this went not in the way that I wanted it to.
Oh, no.
And that perm became fairly relaxed fairly quickly. And because it was the mid-'80s, my hair was parted in the middle. And so I wanted Flashdance, and I got, like, Menudo. Do you know what I mean? There was a beautiful wave to it, but boy, it did not look good. And I was so ready. I had a little silver braided headband to wear across my head underneath it at the time I was auditioning.
Oh, you really were Menudo.
Yeah, at the time I was trying to become the first girl in my school's breakdancing crew. So, you know, I had aspirations for this hair, but they were not really met. And then, so the current DIY thing, you know, during lockdown and even before, I have some hubris about, like, I could do that at home when it comes to beauty things. So most recently, I decided I'm going to give myself an eyelash lift.
Oh, right. Yes. I remember this. Okay.
And so do you know what this is? This is basically like a perm. These are both perm stories. A perm for your eyelashes, where you kind of glue this to this pad and then you perm it there with saran wrap over it and really try not to get it in your eye. And then,
I'm scared of those.
Yeah. So I'm going to try it again. I feel like I learned some things, but, I did it one morning when I was like, okay, I've got my craft light so I can actually see. I'm up early. I got plenty of time. I just get a cup of coffee and do it. It went fair. I didn't hurt myself, but I could not get the glue that glued the pad to my eyelid off.
Oh, no.
Which meant that for the rest of the day, I would open my eye and it would stick open.
No.
And I had to go meet a new gynecologist.
No.
Who was, you know, asking me.
You must have looked very shocked at everything she was doing.
I looked really it was really only happening on one side. So, like,
oh no!